Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, community builder. And I've got a special guest on the podcast. This is our first Service Above Self podcast. And to be on the first podcast is our current president of our North Cobb Rotary. So we're honored that you would take the time to be with us. And thank you, Sheila, for being on the show. Tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Okay. So my name is Sheila Hines, of course, and for a living, I currently am the Director of Client Services at CPC Advisors, which was a firm that my father-in-law started over 50 years ago, and we do financial planning and investments. But I serve as the president, as Pete said, of the North Cobb Rotary Club.
I love it. You know, I was coming in for the second time to Rotary about the time you were stepping into leadership. And that was 3 or so years ago, maybe 3.5, something like that. What I was impressed with versus the time I was 20 years ago was the path to leadership. Would you kind of share with our viewers, because I think I ask people all the time about Rotary, and 9 times out of 10 I hear, what is Rotary? So I want you to speak on the leadership part of serving and what has been your path over the last 3 years to prepare you for this moment.
Yeah, I think for me, my path to leadership was originally when I joined, we had Nancy Prohaska was our current running president of North Cobb Rotary Club. And she was absolutely phenomenal, engaged, a great leader. And early on, she was, approached me and said, hey, I really want you to be secretary on my board. And literally it was within months of having joined the club. And, she was so energetic, and I just was, absolutely, I want to do this. I want to be the secretary. So for me, I started out by that first year onboarding probably 32 to 34 new members of our club. And it was amazing and engaging, because what it allowed me to do was get to know the old members, because I was taking roll every week, in addition to onboarding the new members and knowing tons about them, because I was literally keying it in. But that kind of got my juices flowing as far as, getting excited about being more and more involved in Rotary, and ended up becoming grant chair, and then now eventually the president-elect and president currently. So worked on the board for all those years and grew myself within the Rotary community.
Awesome. When you stepped in and when Nancy asked you, was there any hesitation, or was this something that you've always kind of been involved with? Because you have people that participate and then you have spectators, and you obviously are a participant. You get involved. Has that always been how you approach things?
So interestingly enough, my father, who passed away in 2019, he worked for Scientific Atlanta here in Atlanta back in the 80s. And he was very, very involved in junior achievement and raising future leaders of industry. And he was a Sunday school teacher. I watched him really guiding and directing kids and youth into, the work and business community and just becoming better leaders. My parents went through a divorce when I was in high school, and my mother was one of those individuals that knew how to write a check, but outside of that really didn't know much more about her finances. And that really drove me to realize that educating people around you to better their lives and help them was a really, important thing for all of us. And so I started working for my father-in-law in financial planning and investments, learned as much as I could about that so I could help her and help others. We handhold our clients, we guide them through things, we give them advice. And I think being a good leader is part of that. And eventually my kids grew up and I wanted to get even more involved in the community and give more help to larger groups of people. And by yourself, you can only do so much. But when I joined Rotary and visited Rotary, I realized that Rotary has such a huge outreach throughout the community and the world. And that by becoming involved in that, I could also expand my reach out to other people and help more.
I love that. When you stepped in as, I don't know what they call it before president-elect, but is there
President-elect nominee, designate nominee, something like that. Yeah.
So when you stepped into that role and now you look back on that couple years ago, what surprised you the most that you just didn't have any idea when you put yourself in that leadership position?
I think that the surprising thing to me was the strong friendships that I built through Rotary. You knew you were going to get the outreach, you wanted to help others, but the friendships that I developed within Rotary and this family feeling that suddenly was there is just, they're supportive, they're amazing, they're uplifting. Our meetings are energetic. I think that it makes my weeks and my job during the day that much better because I've got this energizing Thursday morning meeting and it really prepares me for that next week, not only in business, but in my home life too.
That is so beautiful. I don't know how many years the leadership sunshine has been in effect, but I don't think it was 20 some years ago when I got involved, but I've gone through two of those days of really leaning in to the leadership. I was just amazed how well it was presented, the engagement, the growth that people can have by being part of Rotary. Kind of share if you could talk about that part of Rotary, because you obviously went through it. And then I think there's another level when you start the president's journey. Kind of speak to our community and our viewers about that from your eyes.
So training for when you're in Rotary, they offer the leadership courses, and there's something called the Rotary Leadership Institute, RLI. And what that does is it starts out in the beginning, basically educating you about Rotary, Paul Harris, all the history of Rotary, when it started, but it goes on to go further and you end up learning more about clubs, how they're structured, how the Rotary is worldwide, right? And, you learn all these techniques and you're communicating with other clubs when you attend those. And it's kind of like, everybody's putting their heads together and coming up with ideas and thoughts. And you end up just growing through that. But they also offer personal courses in speaking, in speech, in, how to onboard members, how to grow your membership. All of these things can not only be used within Rotary, but can be used within your business, and around you. And it's just a huge education that only helps better you.
So I love that. And what is the difference when you have Rotary Leadership Institute and then I think it's called PELS?
PELS.
Yeah. So what is the difference between those two so our viewers would understand the levels of leadership?
So the Rotary Leadership Institute is, for anyone that's within Rotary. Anybody in any club can participate in RLI. The PELS is President-elect leadership training, basically, and that comes into play when you become president-elect and you're kind of in that official chain to become the president. And it is where a lot of the heads of the different districts, the different assistant governors and district governors, along with all of the presidents, all sit down and, or upcoming presidents, I should say, sit down, have a course of meetings to really educate you not only in the clubs, the membership, really going a little more in depth into what you learn through RLI. It takes it even deeper, but it also talks about the overarching Unite for Good, which is the overall theme that, Rotary has for a 3-year running period of time, and we're in the second year. The president or the upcoming president of Rotary International also has a kind of their own little president theme that they create. And this year it's create lasting impact. You learn about that. You learn about their thoughts behind it. And the really cool thing about the theme this year, create lasting impact, is it doesn't mean you have to become a Rotarian and participate in huge projects all around the world. It also can be as simple as you getting involved in Rotary, right? Because when you get involved in Rotary and tell about Rotary and show your kids and your family that you participate in Rotary, what that does is, like my father did with me, it creates that desire for me to get involved. And then your kids, your family members get involved, and that creates lasting impact in the world, even throughout doing a huge service project.
I love that. I have been admiring your creativity. I have times that I journal, I'm on the porch, I'm writing, so I'm always stoking that. So how did that come from being a little girl? Did you see that creativity? Have you leaned into it as just a general philosophy of just that kind of mindset? Because you don't always see it in people. So where does that come from?
Yeah, I think I was reasonably creative when I was a child. I was very good in art class, and just, in general, again, I know I keep going back to my dad, but watching him and coming up with solutions to problems. And, I really, really love digging into a good mystery, right? In the office as well as in a book or on TV,
Yeah.
I really like to troubleshoot and figure things out. And I like to look at all sides of the coin, or both sides of the coin, So it has caused me to have that creative side, because I try to come up with thought processes and courses of action and, creative ways, to build membership, to bring on new members. And, I think it's something that I've always enjoyed, because I like to see the result of my thoughts and ideas.
Oh, I love that. You came up with the service duck, and I
Yes.
love that because it's a visual representation of recognizing
Yeah.
service. And as
Yeah.
I was at East Cobb, the person that was presenting was the service chair. And so she was saying, we have 20% of our members are there all the time. And so she was looking for ways to get it to 30 to 40%,
Yeah.
which I think you got to always be growing.
Yeah.
So talk to our viewers about what that means to recognize people who are serving. And maybe, I don't know if you have a duck handy, but I have
I can grab one. I can grab
I
one.
love to see it, because I have mine in the car.
They're right here. Here we go.
Hey, there we go. I love it. I'm thinking that the Aflac duck is in trouble, because Sheila and the idea of service duck is going to be something that I love the idea. So talk to our viewers about that. Like, what was the thought behind it, and why put that in play this year?
Yeah, so it started out when I was actually at one of the Rotary Leadership membership courses, and they were
Mm-hmm.
talking about how, it's just normal that every club is going to lose a few members every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to not only gain the number of members you're going to lose, but gain beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, we have sometimes the same problem that the Rotary Club you visited did. And that is that you have a core group of people that attends a lot of the service projects, but not everyone attends one.
Mm-hmm.
So in looking at and hearing stories from other clubs, one of the clubs talked about how they gave away like a t-shirt if once a month or something, for somebody that participated in a service project, and they'd randomly draw one out of the hat. So I started thinking, okay, well, I got to find something, and I had been thinking about it for about 6 months. Went on one of the licensed websites where they provide Rotary gear. And here I come up with my little ducky that actually squeaks, if you can hear it. And I thought, how fun, the Jeeps, the ducks, it's a thing, right?
Yes.
And so I thought,
Yes.
I'm going to use this to encourage my members not only to get out there and visit other Rotary clubs,
Mm-hmm.
to also participate in all of these projects. So, weekly, what we're going to do is we're going to pick randomly somebody that participates in a service project, and they're going to get one of these Rotary ducks.
Mm.
And to encourage people to visit places and look for Rotary symbols around the world when they travel, also visit other Rotary clubs. I'm loaning one out to them so that when they go out to another club, I want to get back these pictures. I want to get back
Yes.
pictures of them with the ducks and the clubs and their travels and Rotary symbols, because I feel like we get so caught in a little bubble. We don't see the bigger Rotary picture. And I thought if we could encourage the members that when they're traveling to seek out Rotary symbols and seek out other clubs and visit locally, we
Mm-hmm.
can kind of show everybody the larger impact that we have around the world.
Ooh, I love that. I think it's a grand slam home run. I mean, because we were up in Blairsville at the scouting camp, and I don't know if um, I don't know who brought it, but they had one. So we were taking a picture, and it's like trying to capture that picture with the symbol of service. So, what does service above self mean to you?
Service above self, it's like, you hear the old Bible stories of Jesus washing the feet of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, service above self is kind of that from way back then. It's not just thinking about yourself, it's thinking about the people around you. And,
Mm.
that can be applied in life and in business, right? As leaders, and as, to grow our world and our businesses in a better direction, you have to be engaged. You have to be there for the people around you. You have to serve and support the other people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is just the biggest thing, in addition to the whole drive for peace around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Serving others, showing that peaceful side of all of us, and being there for each other. To me, that's what service above self is, because we have to better the people around us to really make the world a better place.
I couldn't agree more. That is great. I had a gentleman about a year and a half ago, and he was on my podcast, and I didn't know him before he got on there, and we don't even know how it came about. But anyway, I was talking to him about his journey, and he grew up at age 5 in a concentration camp in a country that didn't really promote freedom and didn't. It was a tough. It wasn't the ideal 5-year-old pre-K. But what
Mm-hmm.
he said was this. He said, you have PTSD, but look at the D and put G in there. So instead of disorder, put growth. And I thought that was really profound, because I thought back to situations where I was in the middle of some really tough times, but it was the time I grew the most. Do you have a time in your life that you're in the storm, you're not really celebrating the storm, but you found yourself growing more because of being in that kind of time in your life?
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, at a young age, it was, my parents getting divorced, right? That
Mhm.
was a very traumatic time, especially for any youth, when your parents suddenly decide that they don't want to live in the same house together, right?
Mhm.
And again, like I said earlier, my mother being in a situation where she really didn't know totally how to handle money and investments and that type of thing. And so at that point, you can kind of, just say, oh, well, I'm just going to roll along with, and not do anything about it, or I'm going to step up and start helping. Right. And I started stepping up and helping my mom and and my dad and learning more about what I felt like my mother would have been better off had she known about. And then as you grow in life and I became older, it applied in different areas of business, right? When we had a cyber crisis at our firm at one point, and when that came up, I just really, boots to the ground, got my task list, my checklist, and started just rifling through it. Those are the times in life where you can either step up and do something about it and come out better on the opposite end, or you
Mhm.
just throw your hands up and give up, and that's really, it continues to apply in my life. But the first time was my parents going through divorce.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Getting prepared and having that vision of down the road, we always kind of want, I like to work backwards. So let's just say it's July of next year. You finished your term. What do you want to be most proud of at the end of your term? If you could share with our viewers kind of a little look back into the look ahead, but yet look back.
I think the interesting thing is that it's not what you might think it is. It's not that you have to participate in some grand, service project that is, worldwide, and that's not really it. It's growing more friendships around our club. Bringing more people to the club to participate, try to get involved in more service projects. But it's not just that, it's also growing my board, right?
Hmm.
Because I have this whole board of people. I couldn't be president without this board of like 18 folks that
Hmm.
serves with me. And we all do it together. I couldn't do it by myself.
Hmm.
It's more about the leadership and growing my board and growing people in each position within the board. So I've encouraged each of them to not just do it themselves either, to have a couple of people working with each of them on the board so that they are growing that next generation person for that board seat, right?
Hmm.
Or that next year, I should say, not generation, but,
Hmm.
being prepared for and getting that person properly prepared for the following year. And I think that that's part of the leadership in the presidency is making sure that you're growing the board, you're growing your club, but you're growing the board so that the club in general continues that growth and that involvement within the community, or else I feel like just don't get it done right.
Hmm. That's beautiful. I'm a early riser, and I have a philosophy, done by one. I try to get all my main things done by one. So sometimes if I don't, like, I go to bed early, so I'll miss Texas after 8:30, but I get up early, and I can see you get up early too.
Yep.
So tell our viewers, like, I know not everybody's like that, but how do you prepare for your day? I mean, what's a Sheila routine that she has on a daily basis that you might be able to share with our viewers?
Okay. Well, I will start out by saying my parents both grew up on farms. So they were
Oh,
early risers. And I think that mentality was ingrained in my brain at an early age, right?
yes, yes.
But I think my morning routine is really getting up and just giving myself ample amount of time to get ready in the morning
Yeah.
so that I'm not feeling rushed as I'm running out the door. It's too easy to just try to sleep longer, get up, and then you're in a panic. And I just feel like I need that morning time to kind of just take time to absorb and think about my day. I
Hmm.
also, as you do, I know, have a Tesla. And believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, I love having the Tesla because I do use the full self-drive, and it drives me into the office most of the way. And
Hmm.
I live up north of Atlanta and work in Midtown, so it's a good commute for me. And what that allows me to do with using the FSD is I start to gather my thoughts for the day even while I'm in the car.
Mm.
So really, I
Hmm.
give myself a good couple hours of preparation before I even get to the office so that once I get there or get to a Rotary meeting, same thing, right? I want to get there, be prepared, have my checklist, and be able to dive right in. So for me, it's just giving myself ample time in the morning.
I love that. Yeah, you mentioned the Tesla, and that was my next question because it has freed up my mind. I mean,
I know.
I can't tell you how many times I literally want to pinch myself because every single time, like it'll be like, can you pick up the our granddaughter, or something, or I'm going over to East Cobb and taking my daughter to the Rotary over there. All I do is push a button, sit back and
Yeah.
relax. And then I see things I've never
Yeah.
seen before because
Yeah.
you're not on that normal have to concentrate on, is that person paying attention? Is that person running a stop? Just all the things that you have to do. So how long have you been experiencing it? And tell our viewers just a little bit more of what is your favorite part of self-driving?
Okay. So I bought my Tesla about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And, when I originally got it, I was very nervous about using the full self drive. So, the first couple go rounds, for any of you that have tried it, I would have my hands right near the wheel and my foot right near the brake and the accelerator, trying to figure out, is this thing actually going to be able to do this or not? Right.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It was a little nerve wracking at first, but once it started doing it, I just started realizing that, especially with Atlanta traffic and the stopping and starting and stop and go, I was getting to work so stressed out. My shoulders were really tense. And for me, it just, I would arrive and I was so much more relaxed in the morning when I would get to work, and I felt
Hmm.
so much better than I was if I was sitting there and aggravated with the drivers around me stopping and starting, and this guy did this and that guy did that, right?
Hmm.
But my favorite part is, interestingly enough, we tend to sometimes overthink our technology, which is a little funny. And I've had a couple instances where I was driving and the car would all of a sudden kind of start to get over into a lane that I knew it wasn't supposed to. And I'm thinking, why in the heck is my car doing this? Right. And I would turn off the full self drive, and then I'd suddenly look up, and sure enough, there's an emergency vehicle behind me, and the car knew better than I did. And
Mm.
that's the amazing thing to me, is it has this ability to see things beyond what I'm seeing. It
Yes.
reminds you of how narrowly focused we can get in driving and in life, right? And you're just like,
Yes.
I'm going down this path, I'm taking this route, and the car isn't doing that. It's using its cameras to see all around it, right? And it's going, oh, there's an emergency vehicle and I need to pull over, and I haven't even heard the siren or seen it yet.
I love that. Yeah, it just yesterday there was an emergency vehicle, and I was wondering what it was doing because I hadn't heard it yet, and
Yeah.
it's pulling over, and then I look in the rearview mirror, and there's this big old
Yep.
lights coming through. So Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many cool things that either stopping because somebody is getting too close to the curb, whatever it
Yep.
is, it's things I never would have recognized or
Right.
observed. And it definitely steps up and gives us a better feel for things. Just to say, like you just talked about, I let my sister drive it when I was home, and she goes, I don't think I can let go of my control of my car. And
Right.
I totally get it. I rented a Cybertruck first, and that thing is so big. I felt
Yeah.
so confident driving down the
Yeah.
road, back
Yeah.
roads, because if it didn't work, I know that thing is so big that it would protect. I had my granddaughter in the car, that I gained some confidence by having that big truck
Yeah.
driving. So
Yeah.
I now have no problem. Especially, I'll go down 92 to my daughter's, and those big trucks are driving on there. I would never drive on 92
Yeah.
because they're coming at you, and
Yeah.
you're going at it too. So you have to trust that the car is going to stay in its lane and
Exactly.
not vary. So I want to get back because I read your bio. This was, I don't know, it was in the newsletter a month or whenever it was, but it said that you didn't have a college degree. And
Right.
I'm the same way. I tried 2 times, didn't work out. I flunked English in high school. So I wasn't really academically prepared for the journey. But what it did for myself is I always had to work harder because,
Right.
a lot of times the HR would say, "Hey, you don't have a college degree. Sorry, can't even have an interview." How did that prepare you for what you're doing today? Did you have a same type of mindset that you had to work harder because others could get in the door before maybe you could or I could? How did that shape your journey?
I'm like you, I had a brother and a sister that, my sister was just wicked smart, right? And it seemed like everything she did and accomplished, it would take me, I had to work 3 times harder to do the same thing.
Hmm.
And college was interesting for me. It was, not long after my parents got divorced. So I started down that path and I just was not able to focus. And so, as everybody, a lot of us do end up doing, I went into the service industry. I was waitressing for a few years. And then
Hmm.
I really kind of started to focus on business and knew that I needed to pursue down that path. But it did cause me to work harder. Even with testing in high school and college, I had to study harder than others. To
Hmm.
get to where I am now, I had to test and take the Series 7 exam, to become licensed in our industry. And that
Hmm.
was difficult, not only because it's a knowledge based test, but it's also, they try to trick you on the questions, which
Hmm.
I always still to this day think is very kind of silly. But I think they're trying to weed people out and they're trying to make sure that you are determined to be
Hmm.
licensed and to do what you are taking the test to do. So,
Hmm.
for me, yeah, I had to work harder. I just stepped in and really gave it probably 120%. And, it allowed me to get to where I am today without that college degree, but it requires a lot of persistence and a lot
Hmm.
of hard work to get there.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I always look at people, I like to look at people's journeys and, you know, being your position of, I think it's director of customer relations.
Hmm.
How did that prepare you? I mean, because when you're serving at that level and you have to, I mean, because your occupation is dependent on it. How did it prepare you for today, serving within Rotary?
Well, I think interestingly enough, you know, a few things. It You have to have a certain level of confidence in yourself to
Hmm.
deal in customer service or client services, right? because clients are calling and they're asking for your advice and they're needing your assistance and things. And if you're on the other end of the phone and you don't really, sound like you know what you're doing, you're going to lose that client, right? So it really assisted me as far as training me to learn to know it's okay to say, let me check into a few things and get back to you. It kind of forces you to think through things before you speak, right? And in addition, it also trains you to work with difficult people too. And you're always going to have one or two clients that are more difficult and ask more difficult questions or challenge you, when they call in. And I think that really helped me learn better how to handle those types of personalities. That being said, it all applies back to Rotary, right? Because you're serving people those people have been in difficult situations, and you have to be very sensitive to them, right? And all of that training helps with that. And it also helps with growing Rotary, because you have to have that confidence to lead a club, to grow a club. And if you don't have that, you're going to have a lot harder time.
That is beautiful. I had a person on the road, on the podcast yesterday, and we were talking about, she had spent 9 years before she became a teacher with Chick-fil-A, and it just instilled such a service mindset. And just, it's not just giving them a Coke, as she said, it's like, how can I serve you? How can I help you? And we see it with Chick-fil-A, because the lines are around the building, how much it does benefit when you have that servant heart. So could you take yourself back to a 20-year-old Sheila, and knowing what you know now, what would be the best advice you could give her, knowing what you have been through and where you are in your journey right now?
Interestingly enough, I think when we're 20, we are so focused on pleasing people around us, we're not thinking about ourselves and really growing ourselves. And there are some out there that do, but I think that the bulk of us at that age are just wanting to be in the right groups and the right clubs, and going out entertainment wise with friends. And if you can just focus on yourself, think about what you can do to grow yourself. And if you can get involved, that goes back to when I said getting your families involved in service projects. Show them what it's like to participate in a service project and give back. And I think that all of that helps with that growth, not only of yourself, but of the community and the people around you. And I just wish, honestly, at that age, I wish I had focused more on myself. I had a boyfriend at the time that had been a boyfriend for a while, and I let him get me very distracted, even about myself and bettering myself. And so that's what I would say. Focus on yourself, your own growth, serving others, and you'd be surprised where that will get you as you lead into adulthood.
That is so well. I love that advice. I love, like, the ushers that bring the boys and it's amazing because both of them have presented the confidence, the humor, the communication ability. It's phenomenal to see. And they're involved in service projects. So, if you have somebody young, you can't do anything better for them but bring them in to be around service, show them that servant heart early in life, and it can certainly have great benefits. I want to be respectful of your time. So I have one final question, but tell our viewers, one, where they could see you in action, like Thursday morning. How can they meet some other Rotarians and see you in that position? Where would they go?
So our weekly meetings are Thursday mornings. They start at 7:30. Folks start arriving around 7 a.m. And it is at Copeland's of New Orleans on Barrett
Mm-hmm.
Parkway. And let
Mm-hmm.
me tell you, it is the best breakfast in town. It is the best breakfast. And we
Yes.
don't charge guests. For the first visit, we would absolutely love to have you come and meet everybody and learn about us and what we're about. And we present all of the upcoming service projects that you can get
Mm-hmm.
involved in. And we do encourage everybody to visit the club, go to a service project, make sure it's the right fit for you. But yeah, we would love to have
Uh,
anybody that wants to come and visit.
yes, that's the only like breakfast I eat during the week because I do
Me too.
say that, so, and it's kind of like I love the crispy bacon, the biscuits, and everything that's on there. It is an exceptional breakfast, and always having a great speaker and being around wonderful people, because you'll be shocked at how people show up at 7:30, because it's just that energy in the
Yep.
room is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And if you can start your day off there, then you're going to have a good day. So tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of Sheila? If they want to know more about Rotary, they want to know more about what you do, what would be the easiest way they could get a hold of Sheila?
Well, they can email me if they'd like, and
Okay.
I don't mind giving out my email address.
Okay.
It is shines4013@gmail.com, which funny, shines, and I am kind of perky and happy in the morning, but it's really Sheila Hines, S Hines 4013@gmail.com. And I would love to hear from you and would be happy to give you any directions or instructions on our weekly meetings, our projects or service projects, anything you want to know.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So we'll put it in show notes. So if you're driving and you don't have self-driving and you don't want to get your focus off your steering wheel, we'll put it in the show notes. So tell our viewers, like, what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
I think it would just be, think about the people around you. Think about what you can do to provide service to others. And let me tell you, it will help you appreciate your life so much more. I think we lose track of how good a lot of us have it and about how difficult others' lives can be. And this is getting involved in service is a really good way to help you appreciate what you've got.
Ooh, that is so good. Sheila, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you don't have to rush because you are on self-driving. You'll just relax and be able to enjoy the drive down to the office. So thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Pete. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome.